Greetings there, fellow hydro engineers. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Oxygen Not Included, the Frosty Planet, episode 17, Complex Water Filter. One thing I want to check is these top... Okay, yeah, these top fluxes are getting kind of old, so they're going to need to be replaced with new ones soon. It's kind of what I figured. So now I'm loading this up with the ice, and this also produces a lot of heat, and that should heat the localized area a little bit. And we'll start to try to fill this water pool up with water. I don't want to do it with, like, melted ice in this way, but getting the initial setup of a washroom would be nice. So let's start laying down the infrastructure for that. And I'm probably going to need to move the power station as well as a result. So what I'll do is this wood burner, I'll stick a wood burner here instead. One of the advantages of this is controls where the carbon dioxide drops a little bit more easily. So the carbon dioxide will pool here instead of, like, spilling over here where I don't exactly want it. I could even airlock it more if I wanted to, by putting up a tile here and then making sure it pools a little bit better. I'm not going to queue up any additional research for now. I'd rather have more people working towards the new project. Oh, let's also make room for the iron box too. I forgot about that. So if I would just put a flat wall here, the carbon dioxide will drop in here and not spill out anywhere else. Alright, copying all the settings over. And then once this is set up and ready to go, I'll break down the old one. So we're going to have a bit of a brownout as a result, but should be alright. Wasn't there some logic? There was. There, logic's copied over. And then, of course, we need the automation wires as well. They're easy to put in. Getting low on wood? Yep. A lot of that is just we moved the wood storage. So the wood that I had in store is sitting on the ground and it just needs to be moved again. It's not that I'm, like, all of a sudden super low on wood, it's just it's in transit. And you'll see that here in a moment. Is this tuned up? Yes, good. I think there's a lot of flocks that could be sheared as well. Let's take a look at priorities. So the Skeletor will prioritize ranching over farming so that we tend to the flocks' antler shearings as a kind of higher priority. Very curious what happens to this. So a lot of this water is phase changing, which doesn't surprise me at all. Because it's simply not warm enough in here. But I think it will be, you know, in time. Yeah, I'll go and say 2, 2, and 2 is probably fine. For starters. Maybe I'll leave some room between them. So that there's space to scale. What is the maximum size of a washroom? 64, and this is 72, so it needs to be a little smaller than this anyway. And then this back door I'll probably keep locked so that they are forced to use the sinks. When I have running sinks. Is that the right size? Yeah, we're getting insta ice. Yep. We did just have, like, random liquid water to spill over there anyway. Size. 64. And 64 is max. Okay, that is the correct size. Good. So showers are in. And laboratories are in. And I think the best way to do this is to have everything with expensive, but insulated tiles or insulated pipes anyway. Because if we have non-insulated pipes, there's a very real possibility of phase changing if the ambient temperature is too low. So the intake for this, let's run the intake here. And then the wastewater can go up. And a lot of the area here. So the wastewater can join up with the polluted water from the geyser, but probably not in the same intake because they're different temperatures. But a lot of this, in order to build that more easily, we're probably going to want like a temporary floor here. So that we can actually move about. I'll put in some flooring in this area so that we can actually use the space better. Yeah, the wastewater could be a bit shorter. I don't need to necessarily run it up that way. Could go like that instead. And then I'll probably want to store it, assuming that it is not... And alright, I'll put it this way. I wouldn't want to be moving water around the base if it's prone to phase changing. Meaning that it's safe to assume that the water in these pipes are going to be water that is not close to a phase change. And the reason I say that is then it should be fine to keep it in a liquid reservoir. Because if it's not close to phase changing, I can just store it. So this can be a like a polluted water liquid reservoir waiting to be filtered. I will likely want a chlorine bath, and the idea that I had for that is maybe using this area with a liquid lock, so that we can chlorine bath to degermify our water, because that's eventually going to be needed if we want plumbing, because anytime you have wastewater from toilets and sinks, it's germy, and you need to de-germ it, you know, if you want to, you know, if you want to keep your dupes from getting sick with food poisoning. So that's the next stage of like planning, I guess, is to make sure that I'm gonna need to capture chlorine at some point, but it doesn't need to be a lot of chlorine. It just needs to be a room that is pure chlorine, but it doesn't need to be dense. And to run it through aquifer and pipes in order to kill off the germs. So that is the next thing I'm trying to plan. I'm trying to think that through now. Blueprint. Algae. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I'll take some algae. Algae is something that isn't naturally occurring here. Not that I really have a use for it, but it's kind of novel to have it anyway. I figure why not. So, trying to think of, so the water sieve. Let me look that up again. I have to remember all the details. So the water sieve produces polluted dirt. So one of the things we'll probably want to do is to keep the chlorine room separate from the water sieve, because I don't want the dupes to have to go into a chlorine room regularly in order to service the sieve, right? So we'll keep those two separate. So maybe what I'll do in this case is to have this be the chlorine room here. Liquid locking it. And then venting out all of this, making this entire room chlorine. Yeah. I think that's reasonable. Automation or suits preventing itchy eyes? Nope. It's a room that I don't think is going to be frequented by dupes, because it's not a room that should be used by duplicants much anyway. It's not one where we need to go into it really much at all, so. And I'll make it copper. Might as well. Copper in real life has some antimicrobial properties, but that doesn't really matter here in oxygen not included. Maybe I'll move this lock back one so that it's not has a weird overhang. And then the rest of the chlorine filter can go in here, which is, so the way this works is like you circle polluted water through with pipes, and then have liquid shutoffs automated to a germ sensor, so that if it's germy, it cycles back into your filtration, and if it's clean, it doesn't. And then once it's filtered clean water, you can once it's filtered clean water that is like temperate, you can dump it into a clean water aquifer or reservoir. Is there space enough for the loop? Yeah, there's plenty of space for the loop. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, the loop, really, what it looks like is, we have intake, and then we have the loop. We want a liquid bridge, And then... man, it has been a long time. Then something like, a valve. I make it out of copper again. With a germ sensor, which I believe I already have. So the one of the issues is we don't have refined metal or plastics for the germ sensor. So at least initially this is going to be like a manual valve, where I do have the materials for a shutoff. So if... Let me raise it up one more. So if it's off, it will circle back into the loop. Like this. And then if it's on, or if the automation says it's clean, it will drop into the pool. So the other thing I could do in this case is this, where because we don't have plastics for a germ sensor just yet, I can control the intake, meaning that I might want a holding tank so the whole system doesn't get backed up here, which is not part of its cleaning or filtration. It's just a holding tank to make sure that we don't have overflow. And then I'll want a liquid bridge here to control the direction. Something like that. I might tweak it. But yeah, without plastics, I might be able to, is anything up here made of plastic? Just occurred to me I might have access to plastics. What is the couch made of? I don't even know. Granite? I think everything's made of granite here. Let's go to the materials overlay. Sandstone, granite. No, we don't have anything made of plastic there. Copper ore door. Granite. Yeah, everything's granite. Never mind. Are the trees on the surface good for materials? They make ethanol and nectar. Oh, you know what? I didn't go through the production chain of nectar, though. So maybe I should take a look at nectar. So nectar turns into sucrose, and that is about it. So, yeah, it's just liquid sugar, kind of. And sucrose is a new cooking material. But you can find sucrose. Actually, sucrose is kind of everywhere. This is sucrose. How does one get plastic? That's a good question. I don't know yet. Alright, the pressure in the living quarters is good. The pressure out here is high. But it's not causing, like, massive stress just yet. So I'm not too worried about that. Next activity is 20 cycles for the geyser. So the big question is heat. Where is the heat going to come from for the liquid water? I think what I'll try to do as a prototype, sheerly as a prototype, is to run it through a metal refinery. And then if that works, it's a good way to add heat into the water to make sure it doesn't phase change on us. And if it doesn't work, then we'll go back to the drawing boards. Yeah, there might be oil and geysers waiting for us down here. We haven't had exploration towards the bottom as a voted goal, but yeah, it's possible that we have those kind of geysers around. Oh, that's a volcano. Interesting. That would produce some heat. And then ideally, we're going to want to keep the water in liquid reservoirs. And we're only going to want to put it back into the pool. We want to keep a very minimum amount in the pool just so that we don't have to pump it. I don't think I have that much copper ore, though. Yeah, I'm already out of copper ore. That's fine. I have a lot of iron. So, yeah, we'll just keep building this. It's going to take a minute. More than a minute. And then if this needs to be chlorine environment, I'm going to need a gas pump in there eventually, but that can come once everything else is built. Is there a positive to having a volcano? I mean, all geysers and volcanoes produce... The whole concept of a geyser or a volcano is it produces materials from nothing. So it's useful to have for a really long run, because without... the only way to get new materials into your asteroid is importing it from space, or geysers, or volcanoes, or strikes, or you know, the miraculous addition of processed goods through ranching. So there's not a lot of ways to get like materials out of nothing, and to that end, geysers are useful and volcanoes are useful. It's just not always helpful if you don't want the added heat. It really depends on what we want to do. Plus, you know, it's possible to use it for things like steam power or something. But given that everything in this asteroid is very temperature sensitive and doesn't want to be heated too much, there's the argument to be made of like, it might be useful, but it's also really dangerous. And I think that's probably true. Have we decided where the water sieve will go for the bathroom? Not yet. It will probably go somewhere around here. I'll probably change the way this layout is. I just don't know when I want to sieve the water. I mean, I could sieve it here and then put it into a germy. So there's different types of water. There's polluted and germy, polluted, and you can lump those together and put them through a sieve, right? Because you can just assume that all polluted water is germy. That's not a harmful assumption. And then there's clean water and clean germy water. So there's a whole bunch of different types. So maybe what we do is coming off of our plumbing, we sieve it and then put the germy clean water in a holding tank, waiting to go through. And to that end, it might not be a bad idea to have a holding tank in front of the sieve as well, in case the sieve is down, so that there's capacity to store, you know, a lot of water waiting to be processed. I think that's probably the right way going about it. So to walk you through this whole system, freshwater comes in from these freshwater tanks. They go into the sinks, showers, and toilets. And then the dirty water, the dirty germy water, goes through into this holding tank. And then through the sieve, where the polluted water becomes clean water that has germs in it. And then the clean water that has germs in it goes into this holding tank. To then, and the reason this holding tank is separated is this cycle is operated manually because I don't have plastics in order to automate it. This cleans it with chlorine, and then once it's done being cleaned with chlorine, this valve can then open up and send the clean germ-free water into these water storage containers here, waiting to be reused as a closed loop. And then the reason it's in a whole actual physical tank here is eventually, once I have enough clean water, these will fill up and I'll have an overflow cap where if it's too full, it just starts dumping water into the area. At least that's the idea, and I'm sure I'll make like 15 more changes to it over the course of time, because, you know, that's what happens to all designs. But at least that's the idea for now. Operating, supplying, cooking, operating, sewing. Okay, sand it is. So I'm just waiting for them to make more progress in building this. The other thing that we're going to need to do once this is done is to dig up the bleach stone and store it in a storage bin here, so that I can then dump it out of the storage bin, or rather so that I can outgas it and have it become a chlorinated environment. And then if I do manage to get my hands on plastics, this whole design changes a little bit. Not the tanks themselves, but the design changes so that we can use the plastics to automate it, so that germ sensors are being used rather than manual. And speaking of which, maybe there's... I don't know what's in here, but it might not hurt to check that out too. It would be a lot easier if I had at least a little bit of plastic to play with. Nothing I've looked at so far is made of any plastics. So, new log. Anonymous admirer. I am a subatomic particle, smaller than a speck of dust, flushed from your gaze. At the new eyewash station, my love is like plutonium, gray and dull and unbearably heavy until I'm near you. With every breath, I burn, yearning, unseen. P.S. I made Steve let me in so I could leave you this. I hope that's okay. Eyewash station, huh? Neat. You know, one thing I didn't check is... Okay. I just sort of built this new power station without even tinkering with it, and just assumed that it was working correctly, but I never actually double-checked. But it does seem to be working correctly, which is good. The insulated pipes take a lot more effort and time and materials to build, which is why this is a slow project. That's looking really good. Very breathable almost everywhere. Alright, we have a new bottle emptier. Time to dump some ethanol. And then the other thing this is going to require is power. I don't even think that's reachable necessarily. And one thing I don't have is like multiple power transformer power networks. That's out of scope of this project, but it's going to be something that we're going to have to address eventually. I think what I might do is move that second aquifer or reservoir over to the right one so that I can put a ladder in the middle so that everything becomes reachable. Did you miss something? Why is there space for a liquid pump in the clean water tank? I could put a liquid pump here to pump it back out. I just don't know what I would be pumping it to just yet. But the water is inside the liquid reservoirs, so if I need water to something, I don't need to pump it because the reservoirs themselves are pressurized where it will flow. So that's why there's no room for a pump. I could put a pump in there, it's just, I don't think I'm going to need one if I keep the water in the reservoirs instead. And the bottler is here just in case, like, I print water and need it to go somewhere. It's not something I intend to use very frequently. It's just there just in case. Oh, okay. So we have access to this now. All right, let's rummage. And there's a fossil. Oh, with zombie. So these, let's open the germ overlay. This is a zombie spores germy area. It's the first germs that I think we've found so far. I don't think we're going to rummage anything plastic. I think it's probably just going to be clothing. That's pretty much all that you ever find in them. Or like a random sandwich. You know? Yum. Well, the progress on here is definitely coming underway. Undead germs are the worst germs? Yeah, it's definitely the most dangerous. And if you're wondering what it does, well, let me show you. So zombie spores. Zombie spores are a parasitic brain fungus released by spore kids. Duplicants who touch or inhale the spores risk becoming infected and temporarily losing motor control. The temperature range is really, really wide. The pressure range is pretty wide as well. You can try to overpressurize it. It survives in coal, diamond, carbon dioxide, natural gas, sour gas, crude oil, petroleum, liquid naphtha, or liquid methane. Killed by gas. Disinfected by bleach stones, chlorine gas, or liquid chlorine. So, it is in pretty thin carbon dioxide here. So one of the ways to, if we wanted to get access to this amber fossil, let me read this to you. I've discovered a fossilized critter buried in my colony, at least part of one, but it does not resemble any of the species we encounter on this asteroid. Where did it come from? How did it get here? What are the questions these bones hold the answers to? Only one way to find out. So if we wanted to, like, unearth this, excavate it, which is linked to a story, it's linked to a bunch of other fossils, so also linked to this one. This frozen fossil. So we've now found the frozen and the amber. We don't yet have... Oh, the ancient specimen's over here. And then the petrified fossil is way down here. So if we ever wanted to get to the amber one, the best thing that we could do is to dig adjacent to it, outgas some bleach stone so that there's a nice... create a liquid lock. Outgas some bleach stone so that there's a chlorinated environment, and then breach into this so that upon contact with the zombie spores will start to die in the chlorine. And then the liquid lock keeps the zombie spores contained so that we can kill off the zombie spores and not become infected ourselves. Rummaging, snazzy suit and warm coat. And then in here is... What's in here? What are those? Oh, Sporkid seeds. Great. Those are zombie seeds. So, if you're wondering about these, the plant itself is very pretty. So here, as you can see, it has a total decor of plus 80. So one of the things that you can do, although it's a lot less necessary now that there's wood, is you can put like those plants behind glass and keep so that your duplicants can see them, but they don't suffer from them. I should have saw the biohazard symbol. Let's see. Sporkids. You know what I could do is, I could put the Sporkid seeds in here, which will be eventually a chlorinated environment for just safekeeping. But the seeds themselves don't produce the germs. You have to plant them first. So, it's not dangerous on its own. Or space it. Yep, you could do that. Okay, liquid lock is done. Awesome. Then, if that's the case, put a gas pump in here. And... This is a little excessive, but whatever. We have gas pressure problems, so I don't want to add to the problems. So I'll pump that gas out to space. And let's raise the priority of this to, let's say, 7. Slightly higher to background so that it gets done sooner. Not a whole lot of carbon dioxide left. Just what got pulled here from the overflow, but now the new carbon dioxide is sequestered in this area, so it doesn't really escape. In fact, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to do that, just so that it's even more stuck. Thank you for tuning in to Oxygen Not Included, the Frosty Planet, which originally streamed live on Twitch August 8th. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow duplicates.